Welcome in, guys, or welcome back to the Marshall Experience. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Tonight, kind of, we're going back to a normality, right? We're getting away from the mock drafts, and considering there is really, a little over a week left until actual NFL football matters. We figured we'd ramp things up and start talking about some rankings again. Okay, so after preseason, right? Preseason is where we get to see these rookies, where we get to see the late bubble players that we're trying to take our dart throws on, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight is our average draft position, our ADPs, who are the risers and who fell, right? And that's what we're going to go over tonight, along with some honorable mentions, and just kind of go over every player, why they fell or why they rose with their performances. So before we get into that, we are obviously going to talk about who are powered by the Sports Lounge Media. Guys, if you haven't gone and checked them out yet, www.sportsloungemedia.com, as well as you can find them on any platform, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok being probably the biggest. While you're over there, give the Marshall Experience a follow or subscribe as well. We would deeply appreciate that. And of course, the Diamond Collection and the mobile brand. Thank you for your sponsorship and anything else. But we are going to get right into it tonight. Okay, so we're going to start off with our risers, our ADP risers. All right. So some honorable mentions, right? Some honorable mentions that I wanted to make sure that were mentioned. And honestly, there's several of them. There's several who saw big moves this past week, but don't quite crack the top five. Okay, for me. These are names that you need to clock in drafts, right? You need to get these players. Okay, Emeka Ibuka was the number one riser on my board last week and continues to climb after the Jalen McMillan IR stint, who's guaranteed now to miss the first 4 games, if not more, along with Godwin being out until about week 8, week 9, as previously stated. So, Emeka Ibuka could be a league-winning rookie this year. Nick Chubb is seeing a major spike as the Joe Mixon injury situation remains unclear and terrifyingly quiet. Except for the news, releasing as I actually was currently writing this, was just the past couple of days, that he will now miss the first month. He is now being added to the PUP list. So he has to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. So Nick Chubb is kind of seeing an uptick in roster spots because he will most likely be the starter for the Houston Texans for the first 4 weeks. Stephon Diggs is seeing a late bump as drafters realizing that he's probably the wide receiver 1 for a New England offense that should be better in 2025. And also Tony Pollard is seeing a similar rise for similar reasons as he's the clear cut number 1 running back in Tennessee. Okay, so we're going to get into our top 5 here, top 5 risers again, guys. So Tyler Warren, his ADP is the 10th round. Okay, 10th round, tight end for the Colts, the rookie. With the announcement that Daniel Jones will be the starting quarterback for Indy, I'm surprised to see only Tyler Warren on this list. Okay, the rookie tight end is one of several Colt pass catchers who will benefit immensely from this decision. Now, this is just being opposed to Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is the next big thing, because he's had enough games to prove that he's not. Okay, but I do think that it suits this better and these pass catchers a lot better, even Jonathan Taylor, that it is Daniel Jones instead of Anthony Richardson. The guy, the Penn State product, is a star in the making, which is why I think they selected him with the 14th overall pick. Okay, the only question is whether he'll have an immediate impact in year 1. Sam Laporta and Brock Bowers have broken really our expectations for rookie tight ends in recent years, right? But as it's usually a slow process of growth for the position, right? Rookie tight ends don't really have the years that Bowers and Laporta have had the last 2 years. Okay, but considering Warren is a strong contender for targets alongside Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, he does have a strong red zone upside, and it's not impossible. It's not impossible he continues the trend of the history-breaking rookies. Okay, Warren should be drafted as probably a fringe starter, okay, which he is in the league, but fantasy-wise, if he is your tight end number one, I think you're kind of riding the fence there. Just know that if you pick him, it's not a bad idea to pair him with a quick starting veteran like David Njoku or a Jake Ferguson. Okay, just for insurance purposes. Okay, number 4, we'll get into Trayvon Henderson for the New England Patriots. I have him in a few leagues. Again, 10th round ADP. Henderson went from the 3rd biggest riser last week and on my board to the 4th biggest this week. It has jumped more than 20 spots over these past 2 weeks alone. Okay, he's arguably the biggest consistent riser of the entire preseason for me. After scoring in each of the first 2 games and then resting with the starters in the 3rd. I think that spells that he's the clear starting running back for the New England Patriots to me. Okay, Henderson has seen nothing but hype since New England drafted him early in the 2nd round, and the drafters have realized how hard it is going to be for Ramondre Stevenson to hold the starting job with this explosive youngster on the roster. I mean, I am a huge Henderson fan right now. Henderson has climbed to right around running back 20 at the round 4 to 5 turn, and that still might not be high enough. Even that still, it's tough. I know it sounds bad because he's a rookie. Okay, but I'm telling you, this is one of those immediate impact rookie performances. I think that Trayvon Henderson is going to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year at the end of the year. Okay, depending on health-wise, right? Number three, Ricky Purcell for the 49ers, wide receiver. Okay, his ADP was round 13, end of round 13, almost round 14. Okay, the one guy who can challenge Henderson for the most consistent preseason riser might be Ricky Purcell. He was my last week's number 5 and this week's number 3, jumping roughly about 21 spots over that span. Okay, Purcell was once going behind Jerry Jeudy, who is a wide receiver 1. Jordan Addison, who's a wide receiver 2, and others at wide receiver, but has clawed his way back into wide receiver 3 range at the end of the 7th round. I would be comfortable grabbing him 7th, 8th round right now. And it's, last week I said that while he's up to wide receiver 37, I'm ranking him much closer to probably wide receiver 27. And honestly, I'm sticking to that. Just like Juwan Jennings is sticking to, his calf injury holdout. Okay, we've seen this done in the league how many times? They don't get the contract they want, and we have either a hamstring or a calf or something that lingers. Right, I don't know if I necessarily trust that Juwan Jennings is that hurt. Okay, Brandon Ayuk's going to be out. George Kittle is really the only option in CMC. But, what can we do for Ricky Purcell's value here? And flies through the roof. He may be the wide receiver 1, the starter for the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy. Okay. Purcell should be taken at least ahead of Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, Jamison Williams, and Zay Flowers, all going ahead of him in certain mock drafts. Okay. He has arguably has far more upside than Devontae Smith, Xavier Worthy, and or Cortland Sutton. Okay, if you're looking for a wideout in the 6th round, Ricky Purcell is looking like an excellent option right now. Okay, at number 2, we're going to talk about Braylon Allen, okay, whose ADP was almost in the 28 range. Okay, in the 28 range, where you guys are getting those handcuff running backs right at the very end of your draft almost. Okay, Breece Hall was the 3rd biggest faller for me a couple of weeks ago, but this is the first time that Braylon Allen has seen the appropriate countermeasure rise. Okay, in the Hall blurb, I introduced his ADP fall, I guess I should say ADP fall, by saying, and I quote, 2 words, Braylon Allen. Okay, I think that the 6'1" specimen has gained a whole lot of traction in recent days as fantasy analysis, contemplate a committee backfield in New York, right, with Justin Fields at quarterback. Okay, all of that remains true. Allen outrushed Hall during the preseason on an admittedly, small sample size, 15 carries to Hall's 35 yards on 10 carries. Okay, Braylon Allen had almost nearly 70 yards. Okay, while we're not saying that Allen is going to take the job outright, okay, but the gap is looking less and less wide by the weeks that go by. Okay, but and it's also not impossible that we don't see a David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs approach to this, right? Their new OC, Tanner Eggstrand, I know I'm probably butchering that, comes from Detroit, by the way, where this has been known to be a thing, right? Allen's currently going 50 picks after David Montgomery, and as well as 25 picks after Jaylen Warren and Jordan Mason, who are in such similar situations as elite handcuffs with standalone upside if they carve out enough volume. Okay, and our number 1 riser during the week, and this guy is probably not getting drafted at all, guys. This guy's had a phenomenal training camp. He's had a phenomenal preseason and looks to at least have a heavy workload in a Washington Commander offense. And that is going to be Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the running back for the Washington Commanders. Again, guys, he was most likely going undrafted, and in dynasty rookie drafts was most likely going 3rd, 4th round. And before the breaking news, but Brian Robinson Jr. has been traded in the recent weeks and to the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, a little insurance for CMC Health. Adds another weapon that, they're dealing with injuries already, still dealing with Brandon Ayuk. Jawan Jennings now with the calf injury. So, they went out and got another weapon. And so in steps either an aging Austin Eckler or this rookie that they drafted, right? Bill, as he likes to be called. He apparently prefers. So, but I think he's going to honestly need some oxygen after this trade. Launched him into the ADP stratosphere. Bill or whatever we'll be calling him from this year was being drafted in the high 200s. I mean, we're talking about deep leagues, right? Again, in dynasty rookie drafts, we're talking about late 3rd, early 4th rounds that you're taking these dart throws at your running backs. Okay. Now he is currently going in the 10th round, and that's for now. Because if they come out and say that he's getting a 70-30 with Austin, whatever it may be, I mean, it only goes up from here. But currently, he is in the 10th round, roughly between Braylon Allen and Giants rookie Cam Scatabo. With Robinson now off to San Francisco, the situation in Washington is undeniably intriguing. Okay? But almost equally murky. Okay, let me explain. Austin Eckler was a superstar just a few years ago and was more efficient in Washington in 2024 than he had been in 2023. He's also the clear favorite as a pass catcher. Okay. Chris Rodriguez Jr. also remains a consideration for early down role, despite all the hype around Bill, who, as a reminder, was taken in the NFL's draft's 7th round. Okay. Right. Just 12 picks above Mr. Irrelevant. It does happen, but it doesn't happen often, guys. I'm not saying Bill is irrelevant, but the hype around the rookie has gone too far for my taste. Okay, I'd rather take Eckler a round or two later than reach to secure Krosky Merritt. If your league is less aware of the hype train and lets him fall into double-digit rounds, or you can get him off the waiver wire, okay, he's absolutely worth a flyer there, but be wary of taking him earlier than that. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to the 5 biggest ADP fallers. And before we get into that, we're going to talk about our honorable mentions here. Briefly, let's remind ourselves about the consistent fallers to avoid. Okay, Joe Mixon due to injury. Chris Godwin Jr., again, an injury. Rashee Rice looming suspension. And Jawan Jennings injury / holdout. These guys are extremely volatile and feel more likely to take a negative turn than a positive one these days. Okay, elsewhere, rookie Steelers running back Caleb Johnson has fallen a bit after leading the team in the carries in the preseason, playing all 3 games, while Jaylen Warren just played 1. So maybe they needed to see just that much more from Caleb Johnson, so that's a little nervous for me. He's averaging just under 4 yards per carry. Okay, I'm not all that worried by it, but I am still targeting Najee Harris's successor in drafts, Jaylen Warren. Okay, Cortland Sutton has dipped in ADP as hype has continued to build around Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, the rookie, and I think year 3, Marvin Mims Jr. Okay, he's not a guarantee for the 135 targets he saw last year and could underperform as a result. Okay. Last one is Jonnu Smith is continuing to fall after his initial nosedive in post-trade from Miami to Pittsburgh. He's not the sleeper tight end I'd be targeting in the 10th or 11th round. That would honestly be Dalton Schultz, Elijah Ororo, and Chigo from Tennessee. Okay, so now we're going to get into our top 5. Those were our honorable mentions. Okay, these guys have fallen and just absolutely taken a nosedive, right? Worse than the guys with the injuries, and it's for particular reasons. Okay, number 5 is going to be David Montgomery for the Detroit Lions. Okay, this is a late move for David Montgomery, but it's one that I've really been thinking about all offseason. Ever since the Bears poached Ben Johnson from Detroit's offensive coordinator position, my concern for the 2025 Lions and the offense has only continued to grow. They also lost 2 excellent interior offensive linemen in Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zietler. which doesn't bode well for Montgomery in particular, right? He relies heavy on offensive dominance, touchdown opportunities, and running the clock out with bigger leads. Okay, all of which may be relevant after the OC switch this season, with Jahmyr Gibbs becoming one of the more premier running backs in the league, and Montgomery's late 2024 injury, if you don't remember. We also might have seen the balance of volume tip heavily towards Gibbs moving forward. Okay, I wouldn't be shocked if Montgomery is still managed 1,000 rushing yards, as he does every year. But if his touchdowns take a significant drop from the double digits back down to, let's say, a 5 or 6 touchdown performance, where they were pre-Ben Johnson, I think he will not return value in that late 5th round that he's at now. Okay, number 4 is going to be Jerry Jeudy and, I threw in a wrench here, and David Njoku, and that hurts my heart for David Njoku. But they both lost quite the ADP. Presumably, Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku are falling because fantasy drafters are concerned about the Browns. Admittedly apocalyptic quarterback situation. It's not pretty at all. Neither Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders turned into the savior of the franchise during the preseason, which means they'll be resorting to old man Joe Flacco week 1. But I think that's good news for Jerry Jeudy and Njoku. Okay. Flacco often offers far more fantasy upside, okay, than any of the other positions would have. And even last year with the Colts turned Josh Downs into a top 10 wideout for the decent stretch of last season. Okay, while neither Jeudy nor Njoku is exactly safe for fantasy, nor is Flacco's hold on the starting job, let's be honest about it. But it doesn't entirely make sense for them to be dropping this bad in late August. Okay, I think that this is kind of where we saw this situation going anyway. Okay, fortunately, this should make both slightly better values on draft day if you're looking for target-based upside in the middle rounds. Okay. Number 3, and a big one that was just recently traded. We got Brian Robinson Jr., who got traded to the Niners. Dropped a little bit in ADP. If there's a first time you're seeing San Francisco 49ers next to the Brian Robinson Jr.'s name, well, welcome to late August. The Niners acquired Robinson in a bag of chips trade with the Commanders as an additional depth behind Christian McCaffrey. And an otherwise, that's typical banged up running back room, especially with Isaac Guerendo as well. Okay, that's all it is depth. Questionably handcuffable depth at that. Okay, San Fran, again, still has Isaac Guerendo, who might have the edge over Robinson for the number 2 spot because he's already been in the offense. Okay, none of that really matters if CMC stays healthy, which he currently is. Okay, Robinson might vulture a touchdown or 2 and see a couple short yardage snaps throughout the year. But he has lost nearly all fantasy shine for 2025. The fact that he remains as high as the 8th or 9th round for me is baffling. Okay, he should be in the Rico Dowdle, Will Shipley, Tyler Algier range, not the J.K. Dobbins or Tank Bigsby range he's currently set it in. Okay, unless Brian Robinson's ADP drops around another few rounds by draft day, I think he's off my boards completely. Okay. Another guy that we've seen take a hit this week was Justin Fields. Okay, Justin Fields, the quarterback for the New York Jets, took a little bit of a hit. The Jets starting quarterback, Justin Fields, continues to slide down, okay, draft boards thanks to a lackluster preseason and the frequent passing lowlights out of camp. But this is a classic case of double counting, okay? We didn't exactly expect Fields to be a great passer. We draft him in fantasy because he breaks the game with his rushing upside. Arguably the only guy in Lamar Jackson's tier. Let's be honest about it. In terms of yards, right? In terms of elusiveness, in terms of yards. Now, when we're talking about touchdowns, we're talking about Jalen Hurts. We're talking about Lamar, Josh Allen. You know what I mean? We're talking about a different tier. But when it comes to elusiveness and yards, there may not be anybody else in Lamar Jackson's tier. Okay, over the last 3 seasons, whenever he's the starter, Fields has averaged a 19-point fantasy points average per game. Okay, that's good for somewhere between quarterback 5 and quarterback 8 in any given year. Okay, but his ADP is quarterback 12 and is falling. It might not be pretty. He may not win a lot of games. But as long as Fields doesn't lose the job, which is less likely with Tyrod Taylor's recent knee surgery, he will be quarterback 1. Okay, this drop makes the minimal risk even more understandable, but Fields is a superb late-round quarterback option. Okay, last one for the night, guys. Last one for the night. We're going to talk about the biggest faller in ADP room in the fantasy world. That is Jaden Reed. Okay, Jaden Reed, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, took a little bit of a hit, and the biggest one yet. Okay, nothing has really gone right, for Jaden Reed's fantasy fans since his decent start to the 2024 season. He disappeared for the vast majority of the year. Okay, then the Packers drafted Matthew Golden in the first round, and now Reed is dealing with a sprained foot that could last through early September. Okay, even when healthy, Reed is shaping up to be somewhere between the 2A and 2D in this receiving core. Okay, with Golden pulling ahead as the number 1, in my opinion, in the mess of the other complementary options in Green Bay, I think even after this fall, the third biggest last week and the biggest this week, but Reed is perhaps the worst pick in the early double-digit rounds. Okay, you can get Khalil Shakir. You can get Josh Downs, Keon Coleman, or I'd even say Jaden Higgins, who's a rookie, in a similar range, and I would choose any one of those guys. Okay, with no floor and a very low ceiling, Reed is likely headed further down the ADP list between now and opening kickoff. Okay, so that is our risers and that is our fallers for this week. Our schedule has changed a little bit, guys, so we're going to get into the swing of things with we're going to be live on Tuesdays, and then we are going to be live on Saturdays. Okay, we are going to be live on Saturdays for the NFL season. Tuesdays, we are going to recap the previous week, fantasy-wise, and then from Saturdays, we would recap Thursday and preview the rest of the games. So we're excited. We can't be more excited about that, guys. New schedule, so we will not see you on Thursday, but we will see you on Saturday with a brand new topic, getting ready for the NFL season. I can't wait, guys. Can't wait. Got a couple more drafts left. And in the fantasy world, we are getting ready to start, baby. It is here. Football is here. We're feeling good. I appreciate everybody tuning in. It has been a wonderful Tuesday night. You guys have a good one. Good night.